everybody. Welcome to Hey Coach Tony. I'm Tony Fiorino. It is Saturday, August 6th. Hey, as you know, each week here on Hey Coach Tony, we discuss the hottest topics affecting us as parents and coaches of young athletes. And as always, we open up the studio lines to hear what you guys got to say. The number here in the studio is 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. A couple of things I want to get to this week, including a special guest that we have in studio. But before we dive in this week, I do want to take a moment and do something a little bit out of the ordinary. I want to acknowledge something. Every once in a while, not often, but every once in a while, I receive a formal complaint. When this happens, the easiest thing for me to do would be to just ignore it or tell whoever it is that's complaining that they're wrong or just hang up on them, whatever. But as you know, I do like to give people a voice, and I always want to acknowledge things to see if I can make them better. You may remember in the past, we've had people take specific offense to when I occasionally would use the word retard. So what did I do? I began using the word Mongo instead. Not a bad solution, right? Last year, on Super Bowl Sunday, in fact, when my beloved Steelers were playing, you may remember that I was forced by my wife to bring the family to New York City to see Mary Poppins on Broadway. I took particular issue with that at the time and referred to the play as Mary Freakin' Poppins, upon which an elderly gentleman called the studio and let me have it a bit. Even though freaking is hardly on the list of words you're not supposed to say on the radio. Well, anyway, last week, I was running down the story of Terry and Andrea Dinan. This is the New Canaan couple who physically and verbally abused an umpire and a tournament official.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Well, Steve Kolitz was the tournament official in question, and he was kind enough to be my guest on the show last week. Well, I let the Dinans have it pretty good, and for good reason, obviously, but I received an email during the week, and I wanted to acknowledge it on the air. So bear with me. I'm just going to go through this this little email retort here. The email goes like this. Coach Tony. I don't even get Hey Coach Tony from this lady. I just get Coach Tony. Anyway, Coach Tony, I watched your show concerning the 10-year-old softball game. I must say that as the grandmother of the 10-year-old, I was extremely upset. I know you need to keep your listeners interested, but really, at the expense of my granddaughter, we are not condoning Terry or Andrea's actions. No one could be more upset for my granddaughter except maybe her father. And here's where it gets interesting. Okay. Terry Dinan, the guy who punched the official, is not this girl's father. He is her stepdad. Now, I did not know that, and none of the papers included that fact either, you see? So, you learn something new every day. Back to the email. The thought of my granddaughter being that upset cuts me to my core. All right, so far, terrific email, and I started to feel kind of badly about this. However, Grandma continues, in the same way, I have to ask, are you being any better about the way you are handling the facts? Calling her parents names and morons certainly is not going to help her deal with this any better. You talk about her embarrassment, well, you are not helping any. I know this is a real hot subject, but please consider what constantly talking about this and making every newspaper in the area is doing to her. Shame on you. Closing your show with, here is their address, go egg their house or something, does not make you any better. It puts you even lower than they are. Just what my granddaughter would need to wake up to in the morning. Another thing to make her visibly upset, eggs all over her house. Who would be the moron then? On behalf of my granddaughter, let the courts handle their punishment. Sheila. Not even best regards, Sheila, but just Sheila. Anyway, after reading this, I got to tell you, I felt compelled to write back. Problem is, I received this email in a strange fashion from a guy named Bill. It was an email who said, please read this attached email, which was Grandma's letter. Well, anyway, it was kind of weird, so I wrote back to Bill and said, hi, Bill. What is your role in this? I appreciate you forwarding it, but if anyone thinks we should let these people off the hook, they are crazy. As a parent, I can empathize with this woman, but come on. Sweeping it under the rug isn't the answer. Best regards, by the way, Tony Fiorino. Now, I don't know what I wrote, and that was the email verbatim. I don't know what I wrote to entice such an emotional response, but Bill took particular offense and wrote back to me, no hey Coach Tony, no Coach Tony, no, not even Tony. He just jumped right in with all capital letters and exclamation points and such. But anyway, Bill writes, Who is this woman? She is my wife. Again, she is the grandmother of the 10-year-old girl. I am the grandfather. No one said anything about sweeping it under the rug, but telling people to egg their house is certainly not an answer. As my wife said, who is the moron now? Read the email again. You obviously missed the content of the message. Well, I'm not going to spend all morning reading emails, but I will tell you, as I had written back to Bill, my show is intended to do a few things, not the least of which is to hold people accountable for their actions, but to do it in a way that educates and also entertains. Now, needless to say, Bill and his wife were neither entertained nor educated, so I want to take a moment. Let me clear up any confusion, since the obvious seems to escape some people. I do not think that anyone should go egg the Dinans' home. That was meant to be humorous, and by the way, most people got that, sure. And most people thought it was funny. Now, nor do I think that any further embarrassment should befall this 10-year-old girl. Her parents did, or her mom and her stepdad, to just be completely accurate, did a more than adequate job of embarrassing this girl all on their own. So are we clear on that? Sheila, Bill, we're clear on that? Good. Now, please allow me to get back to Bill's response to address some things that he has in his email. Bill, you ask who is the moron now? I know that's probably a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it anyway. I'm going to tell you who the moron is now. Or in this case, morons. It is the same morons who... That's funny.
Oh, sorry.
Guess who left his phone on? All right. Guess what? The morons in this case are the husband and wife team who decided to make complete dopes of themselves at a softball game for 10-year-old girls. The two people who were verbally and physically abusive in front of a bunch of 10-year-old kids. Who's the moron? The guy who got so riled up about the outcome of a game that most of the kids would have forgotten about by the time they got to the ice cream truck, that he physically assaulted another man. A man, by the way, who has dedicated a tremendous amount of his time trying to create a decent and enjoyable environment for young children to play, and by all accounts was doing a terrific job of it until the Dinans showed up that day. Bill then says I should read the email again and that I obviously missed the content of the message. Well, tell you what, Bill, perhaps you should go back and read something. Read all the articles about this horrible event, and maybe you'll realize that perhaps you're the one who is missing the content of the message. The fact is, as long as there are people who will insist on humiliating themselves and their children, I will be here to shine a big bright light on it. And yes, I'm going to embarrass them. And you want to know why? Because that may very well be the only way to get through to these idiots and to stop them from acting the way that they act. You want me to pull back the reins on these two people? Forget it. Nobody feels worse for this little girl than I do. It must have been a ridiculously traumatic experience. But guess what? This show, just like Trick Cereal, isn't for kids. I'm an idiot. Tricks is for kids. This show is not. The point is, it's for adults. So shame on me? No, shame on you. All of the nonsense that took place on that ball field, and you want to pin the embarrassment of a little girl on me? Grow up. All right. Well, anyway, I guess that was my crack at acknowledging a formal complaint
All right.
about the show. You got something to add? You think I'm wrong? You know what? Call me in the studio here. It's 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. All right, we're going to get back to the actual program for this week. As you know, every once in a while, I like to help parents and coaches out with some contemporary thinking about youth sports safety and injuries in general. In the past, we've talked about concussions, we've talked about Tommy John surgery, Osgood-Schlatter syndrome, and a whole host of other things. Well, this week, I want to update everybody on the state of mouth protection for our kids, because the fact of the matter is mouth protection is clearly one of the most neglected areas of personal safety in all of youth sports, and there have been, as I'm learning more recently, some major breakthroughs in this area. So joining me on the show this week to help us out with the details is Dr. Sean Rooney of Rooney Orthodontics in Mahopac, New York. If the name sounds familiar, it should. I was referred to Sean Rooney about 6 months ago, And as a lot of you know, I've been singing his praises here on the show ever since. He treats my own children, and I really couldn't be happier to have him here on the program. Dr. Rooney, welcome to Hey Coach Tony. How you doing this morning?
Tony, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. And first off, allow me to apologize. Usually when I have a doctor on the show, I don't kick things off with such a brutal rant, but I just really had to get all that stuff off my chest.
You got to do that.
Yeah, well. We're going to be talking about a couple of things throughout the course of the show today, and Dr. Rooney and I will take your calls at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. But before we get to some of the emails, and I got a couple of them, and your phone calls. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're a general orthodontist.
Right.
But when exactly did you start to decide that perhaps somewhat of a focus on mouth protection in youth sports was going to be something you were going to spend your time on?
Tony, I've been playing sports my whole life, and I love sports. And, when you start seeing some of the statistics going through school and you start seeing these things that are preventable, you start capturing an interest in it. And I see kids come to my office all the time. They have lost a tooth, and it's just something that's preventable. And I really feel like it's an obligation in my profession to go out there and help people out and prevent these dental traumas from taking place.
It's obviously very, very admirable. By the way, I'm going to keep giving you the phone number for Rooney Orthodontics throughout the course of the show. They're at 845-621-1222. You can also visit them on the web at RooneyOrtho.com. You can find them on Facebook. They're kind of everywhere.
Sure.
You know what? I tell you what we're going to do. We got a couple of calls coming through. We got a couple of emails happening. Before we get really into the gist of the throw, we're going to have to go to a quick break here. But I want to remind everybody before we go to break, if your son happens to be a top-notch ball player between the ages of 13 and 18, and this kid of yours has what it takes to compete at the highest levels, then mark your calendars for next weekend. It's August 13th and 14th. Because Team New York Baseball is having our annual tryouts for the upcoming fall season. On Saturday, the tryouts will be at Pace University in Pleasantville, New York. I believe they're starting at 9 a.m. Depending on your age group, you can go to www.teamnybaseball.org for all the details. On the 13th, like I said, we're at Pace University. On Sunday, the 14th, we're out on Long Island to make sure we can get kids throughout the tri-state area to have their opportunity for a look-see. Go to the website and pre-register your kid. The website, again, www.teamnybaseball.org. Like I said, throughout the course of the week, all the specific details will be there. So treat your young ball player to the experience of a lifetime playing for Team New York. Each August, we hold a special showcase where our players are literally hand-picked to play, especially for the top college and pro scouts throughout the Northeast. So don't miss this opportunity to give your young ball player a real leg up in their baseball career. Website one last time is www.teamnybaseball.org. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio.
Coach Tony.
Right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio this lovely Saturday. I'm joined in studio this week by Dr. Sean Rooney of Rooney Orthodontics in Mahopac, New York. Remember to give him a call at 845-621-1222. Getting the rant off my chest about last week's umpire debacle, I want to start to get into some of these issues about mouth care because, for selfish reasons, Dr. Rooney, I have kids who play football, baseball, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, tennis, softball, volleyball, you name it. My kids are just 3 kids who just love to play all kinds of sports.
Sure.
In your opinion, which sports really should require or mandate even mouth protection for kids?
Well, obviously the big impact sports like football, lacrosse, you definitely want to be wearing a mouth guard. I think the other sports that are less commonly used are something like baseball and basketball. Those are really important sports. The other one's a real shock value. Is probably the most common injured sport for girls in high school is cheerleading. So that's the one you really got to wear it. And they're making a lot of nice mouth guards. I know the girls are supposed to be out there looking pretty with a nice smile, but they have some nice mouth guards that are transparent. And you want to protect your teeth. Really
I guess important. You can get them in the school colors as well.
You can.
For example, my kids give me grief because I got them molded mouth guards or mouthpieces when they were playing softball and baseball.
Right.
They don't wear them. Now, the reason I did so is people who know me know that there's a little scar over my lip where I took a ground ball in the face and one of my teeth was really massively dislodged.
Sure.
I guess the point is, you and I talked during the break. Any of these sports really should require the kids to wear them because, in basketball, you get an elbow under your chin, and most people think, basketball is not going to knock a tooth out of your mouth. Well, you know what? It probably isn't. But somebody who throws an elbow under your chin, the trauma from your teeth banging against each other is just as dangerous, correct?
It is. Tony, I'm going to really stop you right there. You know that in my office, the patients have lost a tooth the most have been basketball players.
There you go.
I've had patients actually have their indentation of their teeth on the gym floor still. They've lost their teeth. So basketball is one of those sports, you think it's a non-contact sport, that's boxing out, jumping and falling. It is really, really important to wear a mouth guard. You watch NBA Finals, they all had it. So I think the professional athletes are finally making it more popular to wear mouth guards.
Well, I hope so because it's not really highlighted. I pay attention to it. All the NBA players pretty much wear one. The one sport we all grew up, mouth guards were basically created for football players.
Right.
They have some of the most protected jaws and teeth of anybody who plays any sport.
Right.
But again, they'll still have their mouth injuries because a hand will inevitably get under a face mask. And again, a mouth guard isn't just meant to protect your teeth from getting knocked out of your face.
Right.
There's also the trauma to, absorption of shock from the jaw, from the teeth banging together. Show me a sport that doesn't need one. That's probably a better question. What sport shouldn't have one? There probably isn't one.
The nice news about football is that face masks have really decreased the amount of dental trauma we're having. And it's decreased to probably 1% of it now in sports is due to football. But the big thing in football is getting hit in the lower jaw, taking that blow, and getting a concussion because the lower jaw hits into your base of your skull and you get a concussion from it. And that's what all the news is that's going on with football, and probably one of the big things that football is going to have to address. And a lot of the reports and a lot of the specials that have been on ESPN have been about concussions and what's going on with NFL football players in the long term. And
concussions are kind of run rampant. There are concussions in soccer. There are concussions in all sports. Lacrosse and football get kind of the bum rap just because of the nature of the contact.
Yeah.
And that's obviously for another day when we do concussions again. But getting back to something you said earlier,
sure.
when you see guys in the NBA that are wearing these mouth guards, I think that's a really great step in the right direction for us. And what I guarantee most people don't know, and I didn't know until I got into your office, is one of the companies leading the charge in mouth protection is none other than our buddies at Under Armour.
Under Armour, that's right.
They're coming up with some really innovative new products, and it kind of led me into I'm an idiot dad, not just a radio host. I'm starting to hear more and more about, you can go to the local sporting goods store and you can get one of those mouthpieces. You drop it in hot water and it molds to your kid's teeth.
Right.
Seems kind of cool, but it's also kind of old school.
Sure.
I'm hearing more about mouth guards versus mouthpieces. And so do me a favor, tell us a little bit about some of the more recent developments in overall mouth protection and how the science is progressing.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really important is really go through the different types of mouth guards out there. You really have three major types. You have the ones that are a stock mouth guard that basically goes into your mouth. You don't really boil and bite into it. They're a little bit bulky. And I think that the difficulty with that is that it just never fits right. The only way you're going to get a real good benefit out of it is if you're clenching your teeth together. And as we go into and start talking about the next step, which is performance mouthpieces, you're going to realize why you don't want to be clenching your teeth together because it kind of increases some things like cortisol and decreases your oxygen flow to your body, which makes you not perform as well. Yeah, the other types there's a mouth guards, there's a typical boil and bite one that we have, and then you have the custom-made mouth guards that you can go to a dental professional to make. The mouth guards that are boil and bit into, the biggest problem we're having with them is that they're not being boiled and bit into properly, and you're not leaving enough plastic on the top of the mouth guard, and it's not allowing you to get the full benefit of the blow to your face and preventing that blow to your face.
All right, well, do me a favor, because that one kind of jumps off at me, because I tell my kids bite down pretty hard, and I notice sometimes the teeth almost come through the mouth guard. It seems to me, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing, if you do that, you're really eliminating probably half of the benefit to having the mouth guard in the first place.
That's right.
So with these because most people are not going to drop enough money or coin on one of these custom fitted mouthpieces, even though you should.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go get one of these boil and drop in mouthpieces, what's the best quick piece of advice you can give to someone who's doing that for their kid?
Pay attention to the directions. Read them well. Tony, you got to do that. Because you need about 4 to 5 millimeters of plastic above and surrounding the teeth, or else you're not going to get the benefit from it. So the worst comes to worst, take it to your dental professional, let them take a look at it and make sure that it's the right thickness. You can definitely do it at home. They're fairly inexpensive to buy at the store. Buy one and let somebody else check it out to make sure it's fine. But you want about 4 or 5 millimeters of thickness, and you want to make sure it feels comfortable in your face. It shouldn't be moving around. It shouldn't feel overly bulky. It should be nice and form-fitting and feeling good.
Okay, I can get that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I promised you I was going to start getting to some of your phone calls. It looks like we have Susan who is calling in. Hey, Susan, you're on Hey Coach Tony with myself and Dr. Sean Rooney this morning. How you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Hey,
How
Susan.
are you?
How are you?
Good, thanks. I have young children that are just starting in sports, in soccer, softball, and, they still have a lot of their baby teeth. Would you recommend mouth guards at this age, or is it more for the high school level?
I recommend mouth guards at this age also. Not only is it protecting your teeth, but it's also going to protect all the tissues around the teeth. So it's going to prevent you from getting trauma to the bones that are supporting the teeth and any types of lacerations or contusions in your mouth. So I recommend them at any age when you're playing sports.
Susan, hang on a second. Question for you.
Yeah, sure.
With younger kids, and I never thought about this. Is there any, I'm sure the answer is yes, but you're going to have to elaborate. Is there any real detriment to a baby tooth getting knocked out? Meaning, does that perhaps inhibit the growth of other teeth? Do spaces start to close up? What's the downside to, let's say, a 6-year-old kid losing the tooth prematurely? Even though, don't worry about it, there's an adult tooth that's going to come in. What's the downside to them losing a tooth at that young age?
Yeah. Well, it really depends on where it's traumatized and where it falls out. Generally in the front of your mouth, as long as it doesn't get pushed into the bone and disturb the development of the permanent tooth, you're fine. It's in the back of the mouth where you might have to put a space maintainer and go to your dental professional and make sure that you maintain the space. Basically, your baby teeth have two functions. One is to allow you to chew your food and enjoy your food. And the other thing is to maintain space for your permanent teeth to come in. But generally in the front, if it falls out, you're going to be fine. You're going to get in trouble long term if it's in the back, and you have to maintain space for the permanent teeth to come in.
Well, Susan, thanks for the call.
Thanks,
I guess.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks
great
for
question.
the answer.
All right,
have fun.
Hope you enjoy the show.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
It seems like it's hardly worth and you can get one of those boil and drop in mouthpieces for like $2. I mean, it seems like it's hardly worth the risk, regardless of the sport. And if my kids are listening, which you should be, next time I tell you to put a mouthpiece in, please just do it. But I mean, seriously, if especially these younger kids, with the amount of, I know what you guys charge. I mean, you're going to be banging me for God knows how much money when Sophia's got to get her braces. But the fact of the matter is, is it really worth it? These things are so custom fit, and like you said, if you fit them properly, they're going to stay in your mouth and they're going to be relatively comfortable. Yeah. Why wouldn't? I mean, I don't get the point of not dropping $2 on your kid, if for nothing else, if it saves you a couple of grand in dental and orthodontic stuff.
Well, it's funny they try to put some financial statistics together. If you lose a tooth, what's a long-term financial consequences of it? And they say for every tooth you lose, especially if it's an anterior, it's possibly about a $15,000 cost throughout your life. So a couple bucks here for $15,000 in a lifetime, I think you're doing your child a big benefit. So it's worth. We got to make these mouth guards popular and get them in every sport.
Yeah, you know what? I got to tell you, if someone has some ideas on how we make this popular, I mean, you know what? I will tell you this: if you do make mouth guards, make them in all kinds of funky striped colors, and I promise you, the girls are going to start wearing them because I've seen the soccer socks that they've come out with, and the things that these kids are going to wear to stand out on the field. I don't know, but
Tony, in orthodontics, when you and I were growing up, if somebody had braces, you're like, "What's going on? Why do you have braces?" Nowadays, the kids come in and they ask for them because the American Association of Orthodontists has made it cool. You putting colors on your teeth, and they're having fun with it. And the kids are looking forward to putting braces on. So I think all of us, we look good and we feel good. A lot of us end up performing a little bit better. I know I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow. I mean, this guy's really plugging. $15,000 a tooth. I think you would not want to be in the show and hope kids start losing teeth. Well, you know what? Listen, I do have to get to another break, but I got to tell you, Doc, so far you have been a terrific guest, and I'm having a ball with you. You listeners at home, you think you got what it takes to hang out here in studio with me? Well, you know what? I welcome you. If you know a great coach or an administrator who might be a good guest on the show, let me know. Don't know if you're going to be as good as Dr. Rooney here, but
thanks.
who on earth could possibly be? But if you do know a great administrator or a coach, email me at heycoachtony@gmail.com or drop me a line on the Hey Coach Tony hotline after the show at 855-HEY-COACH. If I pick you to be on the show, you're going to get what Dr. Rooney's getting today, which is this. I'm going to hold it up for our YouTube viewers. You're going to get a Hey Coach
shirt.
Great-looking shirt. It's the Hey Coach Tony T-shirt. You will also potentially get a crack at the coveted Hey Coach Tony coffee mug. So coveted that I still can't find mine here in the studio. Scott Summerlin, if you're listening, station manager, let's put an APB out for the Hey Coach Tony coffee mug. But the shirts and the mugs are courtesy of Signature Marketing of Connecticut. You got to call my friend Jennifer Holguin at Signature Marketing. She's at 203-232-0868. She's going to help you design the perfect promotional products for your company or your organization. Give them a call at 203-232-0868.
Coach Tony.
All right, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Joined in studio today by Dr. Sean Rooney of Rooney Orthodontics. Give him a call at 845-621-1222. Mention the ESPN Radio show and get $15,000 off your first visit. Hey, during the break, we got a couple more calls in, so I want to start getting to some of those. In fact, I think we got Ray calling in on line 3. So, Ray, you were on Hey Coach Tony. How you doing this morning?
Hey, Ray.
Good morning, Coach Tony. Good morning, Dr. Rooney.
How are you?
Hey, how do I get that $15,000 deduction?
Just mention Hey Coach Tony, and all proceeds will go to the Sophia Fiorino Braces Foundation. What's on your mind, Ray?
Fortunately, my children don't need orthodontic work right now, but if they do, I heard Mr. Rooney's very good. My question to you is regarding these mouthpieces. I have children that also play. You know, when you read these packages, they just say boil for 40 seconds, bite on the back. You know, it's not really, when you say directions, it doesn't really fully tell you, you know, the proper way to put it in. My question is, companies like this, Under Armour, is there technology getting into this field? Is this the way the future is going to companies like this, seeing mouth guards, Mr. Rooney?
Well, you know, one of the things I like about Under Armour, it does two major things. One is they offer a custom mouth guard, which they make in a lab. And what's nice about that, it gives you the most custom fit and makes you feel comfortable, and it has a proper thickness of plastic on it, which is going to support your teeth and protect your gums and your lips. Under Armour also makes a mouth guard that you can buy at a store, and I think that what we're going into is you're getting different options. You could buy some in the store, you can go to the doctor. I think if you're having trouble making a mouth guard, go to your dental professional and let them, if it's a boil and bite one, it's a pretty easy one to make, and let them take a look at it. One of the things I really like about Under Armour mouth guards is that they're making mouth guards cool.
That's what jumps off the page at me. My kids, now that I know that Under Armour has a mouth guard, kids are going to, I mean, I didn't know that. So Under Armour, A, you're not advertising on the show, so I shouldn't be giving you all this free publicity.
Sure.
But secondly, you should be spreading the word more. My kids will wear an Under Armour mouth guard. They will not wear, you know, the one that comes out of the plastic bag that you get at the sporting goods store. Now, question for you. You said Under Armour has one that you can buy in the store. Is that a boil and bite?
It's a boil and bite one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now the other ones, the custom ones, are those more solid? And like I said, they would send to a lab. Is it something like an Invisalign where you take an imprint and then it gets sent out and built just for your kid?
You got it. Yeah,
that's
very good,
cool.
Tony. It gets formed better to your teeth, and it feels more comfortable in your mouth, which is really important for your athletic performance. What I think is important about it is just not that this is the trend from a dental standpoint of view, but it's more the trend of companies going out there and saying, hey, you know what? People are supposed to be wearing mouth guards, and there's a big market for this. We realize the importance of it, and Under Armour's doing it, and we'd like to see other companies doing it as well. And they're saying, you know, this is something we should be doing. There's a big market. Let's get into this field, and let's start promoting mouth guards. And for me, I like it because it's getting people to wear them, and that's what we want to do. At least wearing something in your mouth is better than wearing nothing in your mouth.
Well, that's true. So I mean, I don't want to keep raining on the boil and bite mouthpieces, because listen, if everybody wore those, I think we'd be in great shape.
Sure.
But I think Under Armour has an opportunity. They're the flavor of the month. They're one of the hottest sports brands, and they are definitely find one kid that's not wearing an Under Armour shirt under his shoulder pads.
I'm wearing one right now.
You're wearing one right now.
Exactly.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, but actually, you were wearing one. He ripped off his Under Armour shirt to put on the Hey Coach Tony T-shirt. But hey, Ray, thanks for the call.
Yeah, great question.
It was a great point.
Hey,
great
show, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed the show. This is kind of what I think is going to really move things forward. Is it's going to be companies like Under Armour that will provide the high end if you need it.
Right.
But again, you can go grab your Under Armour mouth guard. They got to do a better job getting it on shelves because I have not seen it. So I hope they are going to do a better job.
They do.
Now, with all this talk about mouthpieces, I got to tell you, before the break, we were talking about braces. And as I said earlier in the show, pretty soon you're going to be hammering me for a second mortgage to put braces in my daughter's face. But we got an email from Bob in Bethel who asks, is there anything special I have to do to protect my daughter who has braces? Yeah. That's a great question, and it's on my mind.
Great question. Well, one of the things I really like about braces is that they will decrease the amount of trauma you have to your teeth, because you almost look at braces being like a backstop for your tooth. So you'll get hit, if you get hit in the mouth, the braces will help to dissipate some of the forces. So you have a less likelihood of having a tooth get knocked out. But what you'll have an increased risk of is having some laceration to your soft tissues, because the braces, when you look at them, you have metal in your mouth or ceramic, whatever they're made from, and if you get hit in the mouth, you're going to increase that type of laceration, so you might need stitches. But it is very important to wear a mouth guard when you have braces on.
But is there a special mouth guard you have to, in other words, my kid gets braces, is there a special mouth guard made just for kids that have braces?
There are. As an orthodontist, I provide them to my own patients, and there's a couple of different types out there. For me, what I really base a lot of it on is the comfort level with the patient, because I want them to wear it and having the proper thickness of the plastic around the teeth and the gums.
What's the basic difference between the mouth guard for braces and the regular mouth guards that we might buy?
Well, the big thing is when you have braces on, your teeth are moving constantly. So if you do a traditional boil and bite one, you'll put it on and it might not fit, a couple weeks later because your teeth are moving. So you might have to continuously make more mouth guards. So some of the ones that the orthodontist might be providing are a little bit looser, so they fit around the braces and will allow you to wear them a little bit more. Although I'm not against using a boil and bite mouth guard with braces on, just as long as you realize you're probably going to have to make it a little bit more often.
Now, I mean, do you just, I don't want to sound gross,
yeah, sure,
but do you just reboil it? Let's say your teeth are moving, and do you just reboil it and reform it to your mouth, or you just go spend another $2 and get another mouthpiece?
I spend another $2 because you're going to get less plastic, right? That plastic's going to go forming, it's going to get thinner and thinner.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Hey, well,
great question. That's a great question.
Listen, I agree. Yeah. I think that's terrific. And again, just because you're going to go buy something that's Under Armour doesn't mean you got to go spend a ridiculous amount of money. I think if you have reason or desire to give your kid that much more protection, then I think you go with something high end that's going to obviously be much more form fitting. And I also assume that most of the high tech stuff from Under Armour is probably for some older kids. In other words, is the Under Armour stuff designed to be, let's say, for a high school kid whose mouth isn't going to change a whole lot more? Is it, hey, this is going to last you a couple of years?
Mouth guards really only last a season or two. Okay. So you're going to have to change them all the time, and basically you're going to bite into it. When you watch the NFL football players, they have that mouth guard thing out of their mouth, and they're biting on it more than they have it in their mouth. So you go through that really fast.
Well, you see, that, by the way, that's another thing. My football players used to do it all the time. They take the trouble to mold this mouth guard, and you see them all chewing on it and deforming it and fraying it, and they all complain how their gums and their lips are getting shredded because they haven't kept this thing smooth and round the way it should be.
They might want to change it after every game.
I was going to say, you idiot kids, stop chewing on the thing.
Sure.
Now, I did. One of my players did something, and this is more of a dental question.
Okay.
Because of the I guess the bad taste in their mouth from just having something stuck in there all day.
Yeah.
A kid and I think this has got to be a stupid thing, so I'm hoping you can shed some light on it. Lined his mouth guard with bubble gum.
No. That's bad. Okay. Don't do that. No flavors. Keep it nice and clean. Bubble gum. No, I guess he's onto his own idea there, but I would stay away from doing that.
I mean, we think all the sugar in the garbage is sitting on your teeth for hours at a time.
All right. We're past that, right? No, sugar's not good for your teeth.
Well, 4 out of 5. I know this. Answer this one too for me.
Oh gosh.
4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum. Who is the one idiot dentist that thinks it's a good idea to have sugar?
I don't know. It's not me. It's not me.
All right. Well, listen. How are we doing on time here? We're actually doing okay.
Tony, you want to talk about the what happens if a tooth falls out?
That was the one. We're going to start this because you talked to me about this and I got kind of grossed out by it. We got about 5 minutes before the next break, and we'll get as much time in this. What do you do? Because my wife asked me this one. What do you do if you're at a sporting event and a tooth gets knocked out? out.
Right.
I used to assume, done deal, tooth is gone, go get an implant, you're done. Apparently I'm wrong. What do you do when a tooth gets knocked out at a sporting event?
Well, you have to reimplant it. So, Coach Tony, you got to get your hands a little dirty here if you see that happen, and expect you to be the first person on the field there when it happens. But basically, what you're going to do when a tooth falls out, you have the nice white portion of it that you look at all the time, and then you have a root that's on it, right? And that root, it has to get back inserted into that bone. So the best thing to do is to take that tooth, maybe wash it off with a little bit of saline or some water, and reimplant that as soon as possible, and then take them to your dental professional.
So you can literally, you can take a tooth that's knocked out, if the root is intact.
If the root's intact.
You can just shove it right back into the gum.
You have to. You have to do that, Tony, because every minute that tooth is out of the patient's mouth, or out of the athlete's mouth, the likelihood of that tooth reimplanting and staying in there decreases dramatically. So you really want to get in there, and coaches need to get trained how to do that, because you don't have a dentist on the field all the time.
No, you don't even have a trainer on the field most of the time. But question for you:
you might not be able to do it.
Sophia's doing her thing, and a tooth gets knocked out of her head,
right?
And I run on the field and I shove it back up into her. Basically her jaw.
Right, sure.
Then I bring her to you or another dental professional. What do you do anything, or do you just say, hey, stay off, don't chew for a week and it'll just take again? This is really kind of weird for me. What happens next?
Well, what the dentist is going to do, they're going to splint the tooth. They're going to put something on the tooth to support it that's going to connect it to the other teeth. And depending on if it's just a tooth that got avulsed, you'll probably be splinted for about 7 to 10 days. If there's some type of bony trauma, they're going to probably splint it for a little bit longer because the bone has to heal around it.
But is this like like setting a broken bone? Like the calcification takes place up in the jaw and the tooth just stays there?
Well, there's fibers. It's actually in your tooth. The root is actually attached to the bone with these little fibers called your periodontal ligament.
Okay.
And those little fibers need to reattach onto the bone, so it takes time for that to take place.
But these ligaments just fuse right back.
They'll start growing back and start reattaching to the bone.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that is just one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
If you're out there and you feel like you can't do it and you're just like, hey, too much blood here, I just don't want to do it. I know you would do it, Tony, but some other people might not be able to. The best thing to do is to take that tooth and put it into a solution and get to the dentist as soon as possible. There are some solutions out there like Hank's balanced salt solution, milk, saline, saliva. Your last resort is to put it in water. So try to put
did you just say saliva?
Saliva.
All right, so
how do you do that?
Do you just ask the team to take turns spitting in a cup and then kind of gross.
Use your own saliva. What we like to do is just to actually take it and put it right in your mouth between your gums and your teeth and just pour it in there. The best solution is the balanced salt and then milk and then saline. And then
saline would be like contact lens solution.
Saline they get at a store.
That's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that again. And before we go to break, what if the root is not completely intact? Are you kind of out of luck then?
You might be out of luck, but I would still try to reimplant that. I don't know if you're going to be able to make that diagnosis when you're on there. You still want to reimplant it. It depends on where the root is broken onto. They still may be able to do a root canal on it to save it, but I would still reimplant it.
Well,
I don't think you're going to be able to.
Don't sell me short.
Yeah,
don't sell me short.
I'm
not an orthodontist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. All right, listen. Before we continue, and I'm having a ball here with Dr. Sean Rooney. Just to remind you, the number is 845-621-1222. Before we go to break, I want to give you guys a heads up. The next 2 weeks of the Hey Coach Tony show should be off the hook. Last week I got a terrific response from umpires and officials throughout the area when I was doing the show on the Dinans and how the umpire got punched in the face. I started asking umpires, what do parents and coaches do that drive you nuts? And it turns out I got a bunch of emails during the week. Turns out a lot of you umpires want to get a crack at getting on the air to talk about these things that are wrong with us as parents and coaches. So next week, which is August 13th, I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 different youth sports officials here in studio with me, and we're going to hold a little gripe session. So you're going to want to tune in and maybe learn a thing or two from the eyes of the youth sports official. Now, the following Saturday, August 20th, I got a real treat.
Okay.
The president of Coach Tony's Mongo Nation, if you remember Nooch from Franklin Square, all the way out Long Island. He's coming all the way up from Long Island to join me for a follow-up on a story that a lot of you may remember. Way back in February, there was, and if you want to check it out, go on my YouTube channel. Just search for Hey Coach Tony Radio on YouTube and go to the February 10th episode of Hey Coach Tony. There was a story we did about a kid named Anthony Baruto, 16-year-old from Florida, who was cut from his high school baseball team because of his inability to field the pitcher's position. By the way, this inability, if you didn't see the show, this inability stems from the fact that Anthony walks around on 2 prosthetic legs. Now, there was quite a bit of controversy, as you can imagine, surrounding this story, and that controversy recently got a little more suspicious. I was told by both Anthony and his mom that they received a phone call from the coach who, in fact, told them that Anthony was being cut specifically because he has no legs. I was personally so taken back by that statement that I have reopened my investigation into this story, and I'm hoping to have some formal statements, affidavits, whatever, from the school, the AD, the coach, the social studies teacher, whoever I can get my hands on. So, again, you're not going to want to miss the next 2 weeks of Hey, Coach Tony. We're on every Saturday at 9 a.m. Stick around.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey, Coach Tony on ESPN Radio, joined in studio by Dr. Sean Rooney of Rooney Orthodontics in Mayapack. We've been talking about mouth safety throughout the course of the show, and in this last segment, I got to tell you, there's something I want to discuss that is very important, and I wanted to do it last week. Each year, right around this time, there are cases of emergency room visits and even deaths because of this last piece. You're still curious what I'm talking about? I'm talking about heat exposure and poor hydration. With youth football season right upon us here in the Northeast and already opened up in many parts of the country, it's very important to discuss hydration and cooling off. If you haven't noticed, global warming is in full